Hello, good morning, and welcome to the stream. It is day 10. Turn the light on here. It's pretty dull this morning. Anyway, so I am Ren. I am a technical designer at UX is Fine, a company who does UI, UX, and integration in all kinds of game engines for projects from AAA to indie. And at the moment, I am doing a streaming project in which I produce a game from start to finish, based on a game jam that I did in a couple of days, and just getting it up to scratch with a releasable production to some degree. So one of the things that I did off cam yesterday was get all of my asset packs that I could use for various rooms and thought about how I might use them. And so we have all different types of stuff that we could play with. And this morning we're going to actually play with this fishing for gold analogy. It's part of this office rooms kind of story of working in 9-to-5 kind of jobs, and we'll basically explore different topics within the space. None of this space stuff is going to go in. I just really liked these assets while I was browsing, so I kept them. I've got tons of props. We've got some backroomsy stuff. We've got some pools room stuff. We've got some cool stuff here. But yeah, we have loads of things to play with in order to create some interesting spaces. In particular, I need to steal a door. I think it's going to be this door. I might try and get rid of the dirt on that door. Basically, I want a really simple door for the game world whenever there's a dead end. There's 3 packs of doors, so this door could also work, but again, it's kind of grimy. We're not going to worry about that right now. Right now, I do have a room in progress. I should really finish this room. I'm just going to go and check at other rooms before I get too far into that. So for example, there are a bunch of rooms. This is one of them. But this one doesn't really have any narrative to it. So I'm thinking of updating it a little bit. For example, I might get rid of... I kind of need... The generator that we're using for the dungeon requires these connection nodes and a fair amount of them in order to slot and bolt different rooms together. Rooms, corridors, anomalies that we have in the game. And so I need to be mindful of that when I'm thinking about how I want to change a room, because if I get rid of these ones at the back, for example, and then now I only have, say, these 4, or even all of these here, we don't have anything that then goes off in the other direction. I was considering doing something with green carpet here. A little computer room. I don't have much artwork in the project right now. I do have these workspaces. Of course, bolt to the ground. I do have these empty desks. I could just play with this empty desk briefly and just sort of get idea go in. So you'd come across this room, you'd walk in, you'd be like, oh, it's like a little space here. The problem is we need to change this to green. I think this has the carpet. No, it does not. Let's make sure it has the carpet here. So there are no people working in this facility anymore. It's abandoned. What I'm not a fan of is that typically a workroom is attached to a corridor, and this just is the room. And so what I want to maybe do is take this, bring it back to the original floor that we had. These out here. Turn this essentially into that you can see and enter, which is fine. And then I wouldn't want any exits in this fashion. I kind of want to do this. Do you have an exit here? Let's get into some interesting troubles here. I believe I've made this hallway too wide. Just bring that in. Let's not make mistakes on the general design here. Yeah, so this, like all of this would go in by one. This floor, put that in by one. Don't need that. Do actually want to keep that exit, so we'll keep that exit. Bring that over. Okay. And then I don't want exits on this room. I just want this to be closed room. What I do want to play with is an inversion of this corridor. The other side. So we'll just mess with that real quick. And I don't want these. And we've got a little bit of clipping. And actually, again, I need to it's in by one. Bring this in by one. There we go. The other thing that I want to make sure I accomplish here is that it is actually central. And then I do want the glass door VP. I will need to grab this from another level. So just go do that real quick. Let's have a look. So we should have a start room in here. Here we go. Ah, yes. I changed the origin of some of the assets. So just have to make sure that's back where it should be. We have a door here with an edge and a roof, or a top panel. So I actually want to take that whole asset, take that back over to room one. But I think that is cool. not exactly on the same grid though. This is a shame. I'm not sure. Actually, yeah, I am pretty sure how I want this to be laid out. Essentially, this is the wrong way around. So I want the door to be perfectly on that green line. Yeah, so that's how I want that to be, and then just duplicate that over with snap. See here now, it's all the way around. Yeah, there's a little bit of grid finagling in this project, but that's okay. Then just make sure that these doors don't require a keypad. So just turn them on to be active. And if I just unhide the ceiling quickly, make sure that's the right scale. Okay, then hit play from here. We'll also be producing some additional interesting rooms today. We'll get started on the so this is actually still concrete, so I'm glad I tested that. They don't seem to close again, which is kind of annoying. They should definitely close again after some time. Can close, or can close. I'm going to say that not all of them can close, but we'll plug it in. Open door. If it's not open, it's now open. And if it can close, then we will assumedly deactivate the door. Put a what I would do is I would set a timer by event here. Custom event close delayed. I'm just going to say 2 seconds. This will be on box event end. Just say, hey, in 2 seconds close the door. Promote this to a close timer handle. And make sure that we clear it when we enter again, because otherwise we'll be stood in it and it'll close on us. So if we enter, we should clear that timer. Actually, it can't be here because it won't happen. Here we just say, if it's a player, open the door. Make sure that we clear the timer here. Let's also make sure that we're using player here. So here we would deactivate ourself. So let's see if that's working well. We've got 2 doors we want to do this with. And close true. Play from here. Stay inside. Interesting. Let's have a look at what the bug there is. It becomes inactive here when the door gets deactivated. I don't think that's actually a necessary feature, because this was a part of the old demo that I did where it would close behind you. Ah. So it's there's one audio issue with it, in which it plays when we close the door here. In fact, honestly, we should put this to a customer then. Just called close door. This should call close door. So have an activate up here. Sets it to active. Sure, and we actually have a deactivate. We could set it to inactive here and then close the door. Okay, so we also have something here that just asks, hey, if we're already in here, then open it, which is cool. And then, so down here actually, I'm just going to create an event. This is going to be closed door for 2 seconds. Now, let's clean this graph up a little bit. So, got activation, got overlap, and we've got animation. Okay, so compile that. What's happening at the moment, there's a little bit of a bug with this new feature that I'm coding when I'm supposed to be making levels, is that the full sound plays if this timeline is playing in such a way, say it's closed a tiny bit and then it's playing the other way. It's not like a shugun and it stops, it's like the whole sound for like, it's like a second or 3 seconds or something, 2 seconds. So what I could potentially do, I've never done this before, but we'll try it out. We've got timeline open and timeline close. Actually, no, we don't. We have timeline left door and timeline right door. I hate this, honestly. This is not how I would have done a door. Plus we have auto door left and SM elevated left door. Let's go SM left. I'm assuming this is left and right. SM underscore right door. So facing forward down the X, that's the left door, that's the right door. Cool. What we can do here is do a vector on the 2 doors. instead of having this second timeline. We'll reverse it when we close. And so here we're playing a sound. I want to, alter how that actually works. But we'll figure that out in just a second. I've realized as well I can just hook this in like so, plug this in here. The start time for this sound is going to be based on how far through this timeline we are, depending on the direction that we're going in. And that should solve the issue because we start the time at the end, essentially. So let's lerp this door as well. Let's convert this to an alpha track. So we'll just have two keys, one at 0, 0 and one at 1, 1. I guess this is saying it's 3 seconds long, so sure. Sometimes I would do that by scaling the time. Just one key to make it smooth. Basically the same, so let's just delete the other one. Come back to our timeline here, use this alpha. And then we just need to figure out how far it needs to move. So in this case it's moving from 0, and this one's also moving from 0. Looks like we have two separate doors, or we're flipping the scale of the door, so that's okay. And then we're going to move this door. Whoop. How far are we going to move it? Finger on the screen. Minus 80, which makes me think that this one needs to move plus 80. So we'll try that out. Why is make vector weird? There we go. Because we only need to move one axis here, which is the y-axis. Yeah. We can leave the other two as 0, and then alpha just the y, which will be a lerp. Do that on both. So here we're going from 0 to minus 80 on the left door and to positive 80 on the right door. So let's give that a quick check. That's too far. I could turn this into a variable as well and then just multiply it by -1. If I was doing a system where there were like multiple animatable doors. But let's worry about that. That's good, but there's a slight difference in the positions. It might be a slight difference in the alignment of this panel. You can see it's not quite centered. By gosh, that bothers me. So I'm going to move it just to the middle here. Do the same on the other asset. Option is to move the two doors, but let's try this. That did not work. So now that we have just one timeline, we can go and grab that timeline, just call that timeline door alpha. We can get current or get time. We can get the length. We can get the current playback position. We could for example. Find out the percentage that this is. So if we divide this by the whole, we'll find out the percentage of how far through the animation we are, whether we're going forward or backwards. Now, if we're going, yeah, if we're going backwards, it's like 1 minus for the start time. But we would want to know, I think I know that this is 1.8 seconds, so we're just going to do this manually, but essentially, if we're reversing and we're right near the end, we want to play more of this sound. So let's get a we could map the range from 0 to 1 to 1.8 here. So if the playback position is closer to the end, we're going to start closer to 0 on this one. And if we're closer to being fully open, when we play this animation, this sound wants to be closer to the end of its sound. So this one wants to be close to the start, this one wants to be close to the end, I think. Let's try that out. That's cool, and then when it closes, it should also play the whole sound. If I jump in it, you can see how the ka-chunk happens. So what happened there is because we're just playing a sound at the location. We don't actually have a variable for this. We started playing this from the beginning, and we played this one from the end. So what I actually need to do is should probably just have the audio on here. Audio source for the sliding door with the attenuation mid. TT mid here. I'm gonna have to play with that eventually as well. For the audio settings that we have in the game, I'm gonna have to turn a lot of this stuff into cues with sound classes, but anyway, we'll carry on with sliding doors. So we'll play, and we get to pick the start time here. And then we can, because we're not creating a sound, this will now no longer play twice. Because we don't have, we're not creating sounds, we're triggering the one sound. Let's try that. Terrible. Why was that terrible? Did I change the play rate? The volume multiplier was 3 and the pitch multiplier was 0.5, so let's just make sure that that worked. Here. Exactly. Okay, so pull this out over here. And oh, as usual, I missed hooking this in, which is a curse. If we catch that just as it closes. Okay, so that's that fixed. Okay, so that was room 1. Oh, let's just move on to some other rooms. So the concept is I want these to feel either like corridors with rooms attached, or put the music back on. Yeah, and so in this case, this is kind of cool because you'd come in and you'd be like, yeah, there are some offices here. This is a room where there were some offices. I'd want to stick like some extra story in here, probably like a whiteboard or something. But I'm okay with the general design of that level. I think I'm definitely okay with this one. This is the same kind of thing. It's just an interesting room. This is one of the new rooms that we made yesterday. I want to make some more awkward versions of this as well. Basically, someone was on stream going, I'm pretty sure I've worked there. This is kind of awkward just because... Yeah, this is kind of awkward just because it's like 2 random desks here. And it's just because we have this entrance. So I'm going to remove that entrance, shrink this down, and so maybe I'll also move our snap grid back on. If I get this far enough back, do I get... Oh, I do. I get one more desk. I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah. So this is all powered through PCG. Just automated level creation tooling that I've been building. So that's cool. Yeah, this is the tall room. Now I am actually still more excited when this... Firstly, I prefer it when it's low. What I don't like is how bright it gets when I have the white ceiling. Ceiling tile. Should also really make sure that that ceiling tile is actually in my own app folder, which it is. It's in, yeah, okay, so mi_ceiling, mi_ceiling01. I'm gonna make 02. Pop that on here. Play with the colors, hopefully. I don't have many tiny textures in this project, turns out. And also this material doesn't include colorization. I do need to make a master material for the project, so that like all floors, ceilings, everything is running through my own master material, and I only have to have one shader compiled. So I do need to think about that at some point. Currently I'm not interested in that. I just want to get the aesthetics out the way. So got a custom rotator in here, that's kind of cool. Is this world aligned? Right, yes. This is a world aligned material because it means that whenever the floors and ceilings line up from different rooms, you don't get a clip happening along the edge. Where the tiling doesn't match. So both the ceiling and the floor are world aligned, and so you just do that with a division here, and then you plug that into your technically into your UVs. There is a rotator in here that doesn't really matter, but what we want to do, I think, is just multiply this by tint. So we'll start with a white, plug that into our base color. So now I'll move that over here. I can just tint that down a bit, or down a lot. Probably go dark. This I am going to turn into a secret. Like, you're going to be able to go through here, and there'll be something on the other side, hopefully, at some point. The ceiling is really reflective. I wonder if I could open it up. I'm just going to rough you up. So again, this material doesn't have parameterization for the metallic and specular in this case. Accidentally changed the properties of the entire floor. So now everything is lame. So specular was 0.5 basically, so let's just make sure that the specular stays at 0.5. All that, so now our floors stay the same. We've got a ceiling here. I can play with that ceiling material. Up and down. It's like a fully reflective. That's kind of trippy. Basically, I wanted to reduce as much bounce as I can. Light. Also, these floors in these rooms, they should technically. It's an office room. I want to maintain some of the concepts, so because this is an office room, it's going to have a green floor. One thing that I'm always a little bit concerned about is the way that it clips to the corridor that it's attached to, because it is just a harsh line. But let's go and take a look at our other rooms here. So we've got this one, which is just a weird alternate version of the room that we just looked at. So I'm going to play with some of the design here. Just move this out. Pop it on the other side. But there's no rhyme or reason to the way that it's laid out, and I think that adds to the aesthetic. So, of it being like, it's a bit weird. Okay, so again, that's just a room. It exists. It's just a weird room. This one used to have desks in. Interesting. Outliner. Empty desks. So yeah, all of these desks are facing different direction. So what I could do with this room is this is one of the rooms that would really benefit from the dark ceiling. It's going to get really dark. Really eerie. Love to have essentially 1, 2, 3. Bring this out. Duplicate this over. Bring this right down. 3. Let's get rid of the ceiling for a second. And one more. I love that this is just a band of light. It looks so cool. So I'm gonna play with that for a little bit. Let's bring scaling down a bit, move it over. Well, you're a pain. Let's just do that. 2, 3, 4. Let's take it from the corner here. What have I done? There's a white panel there, sure. I've done something weird here. I should fix the fact that I have a bunch of white panels here. There we go. That's kind of cool. Okay, so that's that room. Let's go to room 7. This, if I remember correctly, is the long dark corridor. Cool. Super bright panels, like right in the center of the world. It's kind of cool. And I want you to always come from one of the two ends, so that'll be that level. I'm going to leave that one as is. This one currently is the same, so this one needs to change. Yes, makes sense. Watch these panels lying around. Need to make sure that I don't have a ton of overlapping connectors, because that will break. Yeah. These are off by 1 unit, so I'm going to keep the -50 there. I'm going to do a -50 here. There we go. So now that's actually centered. Get some thing in here. This office space once that I worked in. Yeah, it was kind of, it would be flipped. It's kind of like this. Like locked in, basically. It's kind of like that. Yeah, so next is to grab this. Yeah, I would have preferred if this lined up in a way. This pillar is off, but yeah. Not going to worry too much. It's not perfect. It doesn't need to be. So anyway, that's that room. However, I do need to get rid of all the extra assets. So just helps the generator. Okay, so that was room 8. Right, so now back to the anomaly room. We're actually going to build a quick actual anomaly. So first off, in this level, in this lit desks PCG, we currently do not have a diff in here. So I'm going to steal a diff from this asset here. So we get the active data of clearance and we difference with the origin there. So I'm going to do the same here. What that allows me to do in this, whoa. What happened? There technically should not be any actor data in here that has the difference logic. That's a bit strange. Why? Why suddenly am I getting like noise? Point grid. Shoot. If I was to just clear and regenerate this. Okay. Strange. So we get all these. Got a volume sampler here that's sampling all these desks. Let's try and keep it on the floor here. If I shrink that sampler down, so I only want one series of points. World. Do a world trace here, unbound -1, infinite, and just put these points on the ground. Debug that. We now get ground points, which is nice. Although, we are pruning ourselves, like immediately pruning ourselves. And changing the size of ourselves, which is also bizarre. We technically shouldn't need to self-prune because there's only going to be one set of points now. Though it says there's 61,000. Ah, I see. So in the volume sampler, yeah, there we go. So I need to do a modifier, bounds modifier. In this volume sampler, I had this set to absolute 0.9. And so it just made them look like these were cubes that wouldn't intersect, but that would be a lie. Because that's actually the size of them, and then if I scale this down by just 0.9, that, you can see now there's actually just desks with gaps, right? Then I'll trace that down to the ground. Then I'll... well, before we trace, let's prune. So add a pruning in here to make sure that we're only tracing for the fewest number of elements. We're trying to broad phase it down as quickly as we can. Okay, so now we have all those awkward desks. That's cool. Let's grab anomaly desk, blueprints, interactable, interact desk. Let's actually bring this down into the world and give this the tag clearance. Should particularly... Oh, they're actually not on the floor. Huh, would you look at that? It's world tracing onto this actor, that's hilarious. Right. So this actor data here is just this thing, and then the points that we're copying are all these like individual points that represent each of those items on that table. So we're actually only clipping. I'm also actually going to just put it off to the side. Okay, so I just need to change the bounds. So yeah, bounds of this, I'm just going to modify it. So let's take a bounds modifier here. Just multiply that by like 1.5, 1.5, 2 on the Z, 1.5, 1.5, 2 on the Z. So now we have a bigger box, and in fact we can already see as well that that's not quite wide enough. So we'll do that. So now the bounds of this are larger, and we'll get rid of all those other assets. This is a necessary asset because it's going to take us back to the main game. So this is just one of those anomaly rooms. Has all these desks in. Just a weird room. Okay, so back to the anomalies. Let's go to anomaly 1. I'm going to start converting this over into something that I actually want it to be. So in order to do that, I actually want to go and take some room on one of these locations. I am going to take the roof and the walls. The roof, the floor, and the walls. This is an anomaly room, so it doesn't need connectors. And I'm going to assume that this is at 0, which basically is bar the -95. So let's get rid of this. I can regenerate this PCG, and we'll have an entire wall section. I should have also taken a clearance asset. So let's go here and grab this. So now we have a little clearer there. I don't need this massive thing. Let's bring this over. This is our desk that we're going to be interacting with. For this room, I know I want it to be a perfect square, so we're going to do that, 50 by 50. By 25, generate that. It's a little too big. On all accounts, it's too big, yeah. So 24 by 24. 23 by 23. Okay. Well, I guess beggars can't be choosers. Let's just bring it in. As long as it's a square, I'm happy. Cool. And then bring these there. Keep this. Where's the little cube that we had? I've lost my little cube. Yeah. Connected. Yep. I really need to learn how to add layers to this PCG, so we're going to go and do that quickly. So first off, I would add a graph parameter that's an int. It's just called, it's one by default, and it's called num floors. Num floors. Num floors is this. Named it incorrectly. So we'll have num floors. So apparently what we could do, we would how would we do it? Diffing against the snap connectors here and the clearance actors. So just here, before we diff, I would want to take these points and loop through them. So named reroute node, we'll call this that place walls. Let's do walls in there. Okay. And this becomes the walls. However, I need to use this num floors to do some kind of loop that I've never done before, so let's go find a video for that. What am I looking for? I'm looking for that tutorial and I can't find it. We'll find it. We'll find it. Okay, so PCG floors. Speaker grammar. Okay, so this will take a second because I need to actually find a tutorial that matches what I want it to do. Tutorial. Damn it, PCG loop num floors. Someone must have done it. I feel like it's as simple as creating a PCG graph that's empty, opening it here to go PCG underscore duplicate points. Essentially, we take the input points. How would we do it a number of times though? I believe it was like a loop. You just call loop a subgraph, duplicate, override, subgraph override. No. How do I determine how many times to loop it? Loopy loop. Maybe I'm thinking of this wrong. Executes the specified subgraphs for each data on the loop pin, or on the first pin if no specific loop pins are provided. Executes the specified subgraphs for each data on the loop pins. Wonderful. Attributes. It doesn't seem to have any attributes. So yeah, how to use loops in PCG. Okay.
loops work is basically it's a graph within inside a graph. You just create yourself a new graph, same thing, BCG graph, and I'll just call it loop. And you just take the graph and you drag it in, and then you can have the option of creating a subgraph with it or a loop node. I'll select a loop node. You can also just search loop to create a subgraph loop and pipe it in. That is also an option. Press the button, it populates in. I prefer to drag it in, just so you know you're grabbing the exact correct one, and you just created it, so it's usually just right there anyway. But when you create a loop, you can see nothing's there. But if I open it up, you get an input and an output. By default, it is spatial and anything. I'll go ahead and double click on it to open it up, and now I can open these and start modifying the input and output. This is where you specify kind of what goes into this loop and what goes out of the loop. So for the output, I can open up my pins, and I have the output pins. So here it is usage normal, allow types any, pin status advanced. So I don't want allowed types any. I want specifically, I want to get point information out. So I'm changing it to point for allowed types. There's a bunch of options. You can get volumes, you can get attribute sets, landscape information, tons of stuff depending on what you're looping on or what you're doing with the subgraph in general. Because maybe you just want to do a pass through. You can even do a pass through if you wanted to, right? You can just pass input into output so you don't have to drag it out from somewhere else. If you want, you can even create stuff.
Say again. I wasn't paying attention.
So for the output, I can open up my pins, and I have the output pins. So here it is usage normal, allow types any, pin status advanced. So I don't want allowed types any. I want specifically, I want to get point information out. So I'm changing it to point for allowed types. There's a bunch of options. You can get volumes, you can get attribute sets, landscape information, tons of stuff depending on what you're looping on or what you're doing with the subgraph in general. Because maybe you just want to do a pass through. You can even do a pass through if you wanted to, right? You can just pass input into output so you don't have to drag it out from somewhere else. If you want, you can even create stuff like that. The pin status here is advanced. What advanced means is if I have nothing plugged into it, you don't see it unless I open it. So that's the default. Personally, I always change it to normal for the output. So that way you just always see it. Because I prefer to just see my outputs unless it was one of those not mandatory ones. So I always change my outputs to normal. As for the input, default is spatial. Now, in our case, we're dealing with points, which is this blue one here. So again, instead of spatial, I'm changing it to point. I'm changing pin status. Now here, you can change it to required. Required means that you need something plugged into this. Now, this is not as important when you have only one input, but when you have a lot of inputs, this can be quite important. In our case, I'll leave it as one. I'll still keep it on required though. But here in usage, we have normal, loop, and feedback. Feedback is a complicated thing, which we might get into a different time. I'm still wrapping my head around it because it is effectively, you could send information from the output back to the input on every single loop. That's basically how it works as a short version, but we're going to be covering loops. Using feedback loops is how you would create a loop with break, for example. Because basically you would pass through a bool that says, hey, was it successful or not? And whether or not it's successful, it stops the execution on the loop. There's really nice benefits with feedback loops, but it is far more advanced than the basic loops. So for now, we will cover the base loops system. So now we have this. Now I can do the same thing as I did before. I can take this transform points, for example, paste it in here, plug this all the way through, and remove this guy and plug it in here. Now the thing is, it's exactly the same because we've just told it to, hey, go through all your points and move them all up. That's not fun. What we want to do is move, let's say, some of them up. So in a loop section,
I don't care about moving some of them up. I want to duplicate them.
it's not in point data. So we need to get the attribute partition set to index again to get this information. Again, this separates it out into here. So now we can use it in a loop, and I'll just go ahead and just plug the loop in here. Now, when I do this, we don't exactly get the same thing because the loop moved up and we're outputting it every single time. You get the check, it goes through all the points and moves them up. And then he does it again on all of the points and moves them up again. Points and move. And this is because 10 points, so we can plug in spline points.
But he does eventually
and all
do
of
it.
our spline points have now duplicated 10 points. Specify how many times you want to loop. We're gonna loop on it. We're gonna put it into our spline points on to normal.
Okay, I've got to rewind it because he does actually do what I want to do.
So for this one, I'm going to change what we're doing here. So we were looping on points a certain amount of times, right? So in our case, we're looping on it 10 times. So what you can do is do a transform. So in our case, we're looping on it 10 times. So what you can do is do a transform points node, and I want to move it somewhere based off of a certain amount of times. And I want to actually copy the points every single time. Effectively, instead of piping in the location manually, what you can do is set up a loop index and then multiply it by how much you want to move it, basically. So I'll do another create attribute. This time, instead of double here, we're going to change it to a vector, and I'll say 500 units up. And then we're going to do offset min and offset max, so it moves it up directly based off of the loop index. And now we have them moving up. Now,
What? Hmm.
you can
I don't get it. Of course I don't get it. What time is it? Calendar.
that we put in. We're gonna loop on. We're gonna put it, and instead of looping on our actual loop information that we put in, we're gonna loop on. We're gonna put it into our spline points. Now, something to keep in mind with loops, I have nothing piped out of here, but that doesn't matter one bit. Nothing needs to be actually piped out of here. It'll still loop. So if you're using your loop just for a loop and just to specify how many times you want to loop on something, you don't care about the information from it, you don't have to drag out of it to use that information at all. But now in here, it is complaining because we have nothing plugged into the spline point.
Okay. I think I have enough information to noodle around. So here we just say points, usage normal, allowed point, required input. This is how many times it's going to loop. So over here, I basically just create points, and then hopefully it take, where's num floors there? Whoa, 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 whoa. We will, I'll just say that root extents are 100. And if I was to say num floors is 1, this should create 100 points, right? Nope. Uh-oh. What? Create points. Create this many points. I could just make function, but I forget how to do that. Oh, I just want to get the data. Come on, give me the data. Right, here we go. Number of points, 8,000 entries when I do one. Yeah, because it's all three here. Teeny weeny grid. Okay. Absolute.
I don't think I'm going to 10 million when I say 10,000 or I say 1,000. That's because it is now so small that it's dividing into the 50s. So if I change this to like 0.001 and 0.001, now I have 1,000. It's just because we've now divided the pieces so small that within the 50 units, they fit multiple times. If you're never going to go that high, you can pretty much leave it as the default 500, 50, 50. But other
So logically, here, well, don't know why we're doing a division in this sense. If my cell size is 1, say that this is 1. Be on all axes. If it's on all axes, it's not going to work. Make a vector. This is the Z. It's a weird way of doing this. Why? There's a better way of doing this. We call it in here graph parameter. Okay. Time. I'm going to. I don't have any walls now. Just select split a second. It picks up some assets. I want. How do I want to do this? Just get all assets. Asset. Just don't like eat. There's stuff everywhere. Props. So we've got props, materials, textures. We've got cabin props, materials, I hate that kind of stuff. Snow enable, textures, placeholders. Got these textures. They're probably all 4K. 2K. That's 4K. Yeah, so they might need crunching. I've created these presets and brought them in this morning before stream. So I have an asset pack at, I just want to use them. But I want to keep my root folder clean, so I'm going to like move assets into where I want them, basically, just as a clean up. So let's go. So it's modular cliffs demo assets, water plane. So we'll take that. Pick that up. I need to get rid of this service drone reference viewer. Apparently I can't just get rid of it. Set the color of this to red. This needs to go away. Sure. That's weird. I just lost something. I guess it all just moved here, Lake House Pack. It's not there now. All of this up one folder. I'm concerned about like the nested folders because there is a cook limit on the number of characters. Okay, so let's take basically got to go to this level. M anomaly 1, we can save that duplicate in new room. We can save those for now. Here we're going to take water, planar reflection plane here. Drop that into our anomaly. Like perfectly reflecting the floor there. Reflection plane, that can go to 0.35, was it? 0.35, 36? Might used to be 34. Like a perfect reflective plane right now. Also, it's really bright, which is pretty crazy. So let's make sure that we don't have any lights in here. I'm going to try and make a quick. Let's get some lights in here. Okay, so I think we have our first kind of issue. Oh no, the water does, okay. The water is reflecting the lights from the ceiling, so that is good. This I just need to worry about later. Oh right, yeah, I can't do it there. It has to go here because it's pre-constructed. This, let's just go one by one. So I have to scale this up manually, which is fine. This will be 47, 47. The ceiling. Yes, and I am going to be moving this ceiling up because my graph is going to have extra floors. Okay, so let's have a look here. There's a create points in a line. This this doesn't make points. This doesn't make sense. This person says just create a line of points using the create points line node. I'm in the latest version of Unreal and I can't create a line of points. That doesn't, that's not a thing. I can create a grid of points and attempt to say if it's say 1 unit by 1 unit and every cell is 1 unit, or maybe just like we could just say 0.5 and this was 1, then I should get 10 points here, but I get 320, so that didn't work. So what if this is 1? I get 80 points. So what if this is 2 or 4? Now I get 10 points. How weird is that? If I was to absolute 1 this. So I get 10 points here. As long as I use say 1, 2 floors, 3 floors, 4 floors, slide. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm just saying it should only need to be 2, 2, 2. Yeah. And I get 5 entries as long as this is 5. And so if I make this 10, I get 10 entries. And the point being, if I take num floors and I make a vector 3 and I plug the z in here, that's the 10 here, and this is 1, this is 1, and I plug that into the extents, I will get, here I'll get 2 entries because num floors is 2, then I'll get 1 entry. So let's just say, by default it is 1, that's fine. And then, now that I finally have that, I can plug that into the loop here, and then take this, and then I was hoping that I could create an input. So, well, that's just number of floors is happening here. We're copying the points, but we're not transforming them yet. So we would then transform the points by make vector 3 be this multiply loop index. So loop index multiplied by, and the height of my walls is like 400 or something, but we need to go check. We need to go make sure that that is true. So let's just drop a wall in, go and look at it from the left. Check, it's 500 tall. Let's multiply by 500, and that goes into the offset min max and comes back out on the out loop. Okay, and it loops this many times. Assumedly loop this. Don't loop these points. This is just normal. We're just going to come in, take them, move them out, and then we're going to hopefully loop that several times. And that's going to be our walls. So we have this number of walls, and then we come in and we say, actually, I want 2 floors. Okay, so now if I come in here and say A, we've got 60 before we go in, and we've still got 60 on the way out. Or do you have a loop here and it just says 0? Here here we have 2, and that's the number of loops that I want to do. Yes, I will go and...
Otherwise, just make it a really small number times, right? Because that is going to be insane.
Real thing that you don't think that.
Or I know how many times you use it in scenarios where you have something that you want to do. Like, well, you know you need to loop on it 5 times, but maybe you don't have your points are not. You don't have the points for 5 floors, but you need to loop it at 5 times specifically. So in scenarios like that, you would use this setup to specify I want to loop it 5 times.
So using them in your level, and you're more just using them to like do anything in your loop the certain number of times of points that you have. So you're saying like
Yes.
I need to do something 5 times. I'll just create 5 points and use that the index from those points to drive a loop doing something 5 times.
Yes. For example, if I want to do something, let's say 10 times here, we'll do a little demo here. So again, you have the points here, right? It's an index here. It's not in point data. So we need to get the attribute partition set to index again to get this information. Again, this separates it out.
Okay, attribute partition. By index. So what now do I have? 2. Okay, cool.
Out into here. So now we can use it in a loop, and I'll just go ahead and just plug the loop in here. Now, when I do this, we don't exactly get the same thing because the loop is not set up for it. So actually, you know what?
Yeah,
Let's
2
go ahead
floors. Look
and
at that.
I'll duplicate the loop, and we'll use this new one. Let's save everything.
I do need to...
I'm going to change what we're doing here. So
I do need to try and make...
a certain amount of...
I need to try and make this a variable that comes from the in. I wonder if I can do that. So this is just height. I want it to be... It says attribute set. I mean, can it just be attribute? Height here. Graph parameters add float. We'll say 475 or something like that. We'll rename this to height per floor. Save. Okay, and then did that work? Regen details. It doesn't seem to have worked. Can I do 3 floors? Is it still working at all? Clear, generate. 1, 2, 3. 3 floors does not work. Interesting. Why does 3 not work?
times, right? So in our case, we're looping on it 10 times. So what you can do is do a transform points node, and I want it every single time. I set up a... So I'll do another create attribute. This time, instead of double here, we're going to change it to a vector, and I'll say 500 units up. And then we're going to do offset min and offset max. So it moves it up directly based off of the loop index, and now we have it moving up. Now, in this case, we're not moving up anything else because we haven't plugged in our spline. So this is where you want to have multiple inputs. So on this one, we want to loop on these points. We'll go ahead and our spline points. Instead of looping on our actual loop information that we put in, piped out of here by using your from it playing because we have no duplicated 10 times, so we can plug in at all. But now in here, it is complaining because we have nothing plugged into the spline points, so we can plug in spline points. And all of our spline points have now duplicated 10 times and we now have a grid of spine points. And this is because every single time that it goes through the points, it goes through all the points and moves them up. And then he does it again on all of the points and moves them up again. And every time we're outputting this, which means that every time you get the full points moved, next time in the loop it moved up, and we're outputting it every single time. Now, when you have a loop like this outputting, something to keep in mind is it does create separate point data for all of this. So if, for example, you didn't want to have them all separated out anymore, you would want to use a merge points node, and then you only have one again, and all your points have been combined. Again, you can do, for loops now, you could also do things like only affecting one of these floors. Because
180
you
entries.
can filter based on that information.
So
Right
it
now,
is
I have it
0,
separated out by floors,
500,
effectively, from floor 0 to floor
and then
9.
2.
So what we can do here is
Why is
use
it just
a
2?
filter points or point filter, and we can say if it is greater than, and we can say index, or actually let's do equal to an index specifically, and we're going to use a constant
Okay, here we go.
threshold for
0,
filter,
400,
so just
800.
type in a number here. And we're going to say 2. And now if I change this to 5, yeah, different column, 20, different column.
450.
Because now it effectively is going
450,
through,
sorry.
and each one of these, each one on the floor, has its own array here. And so you can now specify, hey, I want this column. Now, if you were to do this with it combined, right, it would only get the 1 point. But because it's now partitioned based on the floors already, you're getting a column of the points.
And what if you want to
Okay,
get an
let's do that.
entire like horizontal floor of the points? Where?
Okay, anyway, so 3, let's bring this roof down. Now I have actual floors, which is cool. And that will work on all of my elements. I just need to make sure that my default number of floors is 1, otherwise all rooms that use this logic are just going to immediately change. This is kind of annoying. It no longer is based on grid, but I can just use end and that works. It's telling me that I need to enable project settings global clip, so let's do that. Support global clip plane for planar. And let's just bring in as well in our office rooms here. We have this fisherman hut, which has the lake house pack and the water plane. In the lake house pack, we just have the lake house pack stuff. I'm just going to move this one folder up again. Again, I'm worried about file name length, basically. Maybe it's not necessary to worry so much, but hey. So in the fisherman hut, we just have huts. That's cool. Let's bring them all in. Yeah, and suddenly I realized the room is too small because these things are huge. So obviously that needs to be in the water, else it's not going to make any sense. I'm going to need to go back into that pack and actually get some boardwalks, because otherwise we're not walking across any of this. Concept in my head was there'll be little bridges across these sections, and you would come in, sort of see this cool space, which currently is not that cool because it doesn't have any lighting. I do want to create a different material for the ceiling as well. I'm going to try and get GPT to produce it through HLSL. So let's go to our normal app folder that we use for most of our stuff, and we'll just go material m underscore ceiling grid. Let's open, do a custom node here. Just apply this for now, and then I'm going to go and see if GPT can help me. Okay. So in GPT over, I have like a conceptual like ceiling. Create a Unreal Engine 5 HLSL custom shader node logic where the inputs are implicit. Should be dash comp dash name type top dash name type default value. Type default value at the top of the file. It needs variables for world tile size of the squares, tiles between lights. The intent is to create a pattern of squares I need gap size. It needs variables for world tile size, which is the size of the squares. Gap size. The black lines are bled inwards into the square tiles. The intent is to create a pattern of squares with a black line grid and intermittent white squares. The outputs should be 1 or R, the black-white grid. No light tiles. G, black-white mask for where the tiles exist. The material should be world scale based, such that I define the variables UU. Let's see if I was verbose enough there. Always interesting to try. I should redefine that. Thought. Did you think? I've noticed that GPT has removed the ability to edit inline. Using the image I previously provided, I'm going to say all this. variable for world tile size, gap size, num tiles between lights, the intent. So I'll say blow int. The intent is to create a pattern of squares with a black line grid and intermittent white squares. The outputs should be are the black and white. The grid with white squares sized by world tile size. Say tile size. Sized by tile size with black lines white squares sized by tile size and black lines sized by gap size. I'll call it line size. Tile size and black line size by line size. No G, a black and white mask for where the light tiles exist. The material should be world scale based. Yeah, here we go. That's what I want to say. I had an issue with how some of the definition was done. It could be misconstrued, so just fix that. We did get a nice duplicate function in, which is cool, or like a num floors little PCG function, so that was a cool little endeavor. A different one. One of the things that I did recently while I wait for that to load is I went through my library and sort of picked out a bunch of things that I want to play with. In particular, on this side, we have tools, items, tape. We have, more tools, power, assets. We have fuel, a gas mask that could be used in a solution to an escape. So the concept with all these is I can use them as a thought catalyst for creating secrets in the game, which are the whole point of the achievements for the game are about getting to the secret endings, and if a player is so inclined, rather than in a game like Pools, where you just walk through the world, there are some secrets hidden in there, and those do give achievements, in fact, and they're quite weird achievements, or quite secrets, if you like. So that's cool. Like, players get to converse about that. They get to talk and discuss. I want to do it where it's a little bit more raised to the surface, that like the point of the game is to escape the facility. Once you've done the first run, you hopefully have ideas of like, well, what were the bolt cutters for? So there'll be chains somewhere that you can unhook. Or, if you take this gas can from one anomaly into another, you could power a generator that opens a door and does something, right? So we've got loads of stuff that we can play with. I do like fire escape exit is one of them. I do need to start noting them down as well. So we might do that shortly. Here you go, a HLSL body for a UE5 custom code. It's world scale on the XY plane by default. Good for a horizontal surface like your reference. Set the custom node's output type to float 2. Let's try it. Set the custom thing to output float 2, and then we can break this, and then we'll add our inputs. Here we can say 60 and then 2.5 and then 3 here. And this is light distance. Still redefined them. I love that it doesn't matter how hard I try to tell it that the inputs are implicitly defined as part of the node, that it still redefines the static const float. The cool thing about GPT is I can just paste this and it will just read it. It's also going to need the UVs. I don't know why it hasn't asked for the UVs. So now we have a new variable, world pos. Interesting. don't think it understood the problem. Don't know why this is worse than it used to be. In that I might go back to. Can I go back to GPT-4? I could. You're overthinking this. Ah, well, at least it actually did something. Okay, so we. Yeah, that's interesting. I am going to need to be able to offset it. Let's create a instance of it firstly. Apply that to our ceiling. Don't seem to be able to rename these. Okay. So we have this. I want, obviously, to maybe create them in a similar size. Let's go 300. That is correct. Line size 1, 2, 3, 2. Yeah. There is no emissive coming out of it, so it's not going to do anything here. And then actually, if I plug this into the emissive here, might maybe this is correct. Whoa. But we are getting close to our material, and it took me like 10-15 minutes, which is awesome. Oh, no, I don't have any. It says here, choose your layout for the tiles. Float is light equals X. Lights every nth column, vertical bands, horizontal bands. Lights every aligned row column crossing. This is the one I want. That's not correct though. I can see that from the picture here. Checkerboard. I do want checkerboard. Checkerboard sucks. Damn it. Where did I go? Right. This room is going to be cool when it's done though. It's like, let's get in there. Let's get in there. So I just told it that that's totally broken. Because of course. It would truly care. It works for a moment. And in fact, I should probably tell it. It's occurring in... It works in positive... Now negative X. I can just give it that image. Just tell it. The issue now... the issue occurs in negative values. Top right, plus XY. Bottom left, minus XY. Top left, minus X plus Y. Bottom right is plus X minus Y, I believe. Let's just double check. You basically just give it as much information as you can. Yeah, cool. Accurate information as well. Don't give it incorrect information. Then it won't be able to understand. So if I'd been working on this for 4 hours at this point, and I was like really scratching my head for some reason because I'm not a great mathematician, then I would just be like, okay, well, everything just has to sit positively because I would just move on. I'd want to get to the next stage. I'm going to restart my editor because of the config change. And while that's doing, I want to note down some of the endings that we're going to do. So endings. Well, actually, we could just type fire escape ending. That's one ending. I'm going to put a little text block here. Endings. Yeah, fire escape ending. I'll whoops. I will play with this a little bit as well. We've got the back room anomaly, pool room anomaly. These are both homage. Through jittering chair room, and then this other one is find and use the slide to escape. The jittering chair room. All from sky as a reference to the origin. I've got one was requested that was the underwater set. So this is drowning in work analogy, which is like tons of cabinets, paperwork floating in water. Yeah, there was something about that set. I've got some notes here from last night while I was thinking. Written about the fire escape one. The forest escape, so yeah, I want to do forest escape set, or a forest set. There's one of the escapes, and so teleport to glade with cabin. No inside reads burnout. Talks about burnout. Taking a long break for several years. Fade to black. Return. They all fade to black and return. To be fair. So those are our first 5, and we do need 5 more. So those are unknown currently, but they are gonna, outside of the homages, they're gonna say something about work-life balance. So yeah, we have 5 undefined endings right now. Okay, so we're back in the engine now. That's cool. Let's check. Try. Awesome that didn't work. That's really cool. So for anyone joining late, I like to use GPT to create HLSL, so I can quickly create things like this that allow me to decorate rooms, like this room here. So far not working very well, because the HLSL doesn't work very well. But we're getting there. We are getting there. So this is one of the rooms that we'll be exploring. I'm going to add a... Oh, it didn't... There we go. I'll be adding a little extra post-processing to this soon, but first I need to fix this. Say I need to fix this. GPT needs to fix its shit. No, node found. Okay. I'm just going to copy this, paste it here. An issue occurs during negative values, such that top right plus y, the image I share here is top right. Let's put some, I wish this was a bullet point. Bottom right. It works perfectly in top right positive values. I say perfectly, I still need to add the offset to it, but that can come later. Currently it's off. Dirty fix would just require to add like 20,000 to work. Oh, true. Very true. You, sir, are a genius. I mean, that is a perfectly good fix. I wonder what it did. It uses a modulator, I guess. Positive modulator, yeah. That's smart. Don't know why I didn't think of that. Of course that didn't work either. Error function definition is not allowed here. Function defs aren't allowed. What I really need to do, and I don't know if GPT does this, but I need to create one of those like MD files or like director files that where everything I tell it every time I make a HLSL is just like the baseline, and it just knows that like it can't do inline functions, it can't do variable declarations because those come implicitly, that I want my top to be where the etc, etc, and then I just run it every time. I heard Gemini can do that. You need to insert inside a struct. You can use function. You can't use functions like that. You need to insert inside a struct, then instantiate the struct and use it. So like UE5 functions in HLSL, how to can't define a function in HLSL shader code. Blah 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 blah. It's not really documented clearly. If you're using HLSL node in a material graph, your HLSL code is copied into another generated HLSL module. This is blah, 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 blah. For you to use functions, you have to wrap the functions into a struct, like you just said, Cluedos. Okay, so let me take this and put this in here. Just say, turns out you can use functions. Try this. Try this, like this. Okay, so let me read this and actually maybe learn something. So you create a struct. Any name is suitable. Custom function. It says custom functions, which I find interesting, rather than just custom function. Place any other global variables here. Place any other functions here as well. Where does the struct end? Looks like the struct ends here. This part below is not wrapped into the above struct. Custom function CF. There is other ways, but more complicated, by using two custom nodes, yeah, and cutting the first by returning a loop value and closing a poop value, closing brace, and then you can void poo, your custom function. Can be used to make it available from other custom nodes. It basically adds the function to the root. The other best way is that you can include USF files directly in the custom code, but you need to register the shader folder. I'm going to copy that and post that into my I need to learn about this folder. Cluedos says Cluedos. Let's see how this translates. Didn't like it. So let's try and tell it this. Here's an example. Also, haven't looked at my Twitter in a long time. I've also fallen behind. I was doing a thing on my Twitter for a while where I was doing like one... it was originally like one motion design lesson a day, and I'd do a lesson and I'd post a little GIF. And then eventually it became like 7 motion design GIFs at the end of the week, because that's when I get time. I just grind the tutorial that I pay for, $400 I paid for them. And then ended up being like not all. So it was like 1 of 100 to 30 of 100. I got to 30. I feel bad that I didn't finish that series. It's kind of sad. The Structway is good, the one from the forum. Where does he complain? Yeah, GPT. So GPT, the thing that it said was like, okay. There are validation errors in a VFF local vertex factory. Error. Instructions must be of an allowed type. And I can't see what line it's referring to, but I'm guessing, I don't know, this doesn't look too good because he doesn't do anything at the end here. So now he actually runs cf.main, which I'm guessing is like, this is cf, this is main. He's using mod p probably in here. Also, I love that we call it a he. Yeah, it was missing the return, right? Now it's actually got the return. Yeah, that's the same as I noticed it didn't have. Yeah, let's try it. Okay, cool. Apply. Anomaly. Yay! Okay, so now I just want to, well, nah, we'll say yay when we definitely have it working. Right, that's cool. Now I just need to offset world position. So just plus vector 3, vector parameter offset. Just plug that in here. Back in this. What I wanted to do, this is actually quite tame on the brightness right now, so I need to work on that. But I do want to offset this. I think it's going to just be like -150, -150. And that basically places these perfectly along with my world geometry. Except not the way I want. I think that's it. No? Okay. There we go. So we have them. It's kind of cool. What if I do... And then I just need, you know, this is why I like to output in different channels, because now I can do things with this, like say emissive boost, say 2. Then I need to plug in things like these walls, I think, have like a slight texturing to them. You can just about see that texturing in it. And it speaks in game, like it diffuses the lumen, I think. But anyway, emissive boost. Let's go for it. 5, 10. Oh yeah. Cool. Yuck. Anyway, so then there's problems like when I actually come across this room, what the hell is all this about? Like, why is this just like kind of crap? So we'll resolve that shortly. In fact, what I could do is I could probably just get rid of the floor, or at least lower the floor. by 1 unit, I assume. Actually, I kind of want to be able to see through this water here. There is a transparency variable on this material. Base opacity here. So I could, whoops, sorry, just punch my microphone. Would be seen in the water. You can cheat if you want to make it like all the surface is lit without seeing it. Huh. I don't know. Okay, so we can see through. Now the question is, do I want to wade through this water? Because I did also make some sounds earlier today for like sloshing through water. And I did that with 11 labs, which I pay for 40 bucks a month, and I never use it. So I'm glad I got a chance to actually use it today. Let's get this. Should this be here? Sometimes you're going to come into here in that angle. Whoop. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love this ceiling. This ceiling worked out really well. For like half an hour's work, like it's done exactly what I wanted. And so for reference, there's a pretty cool little series of things that I did here that I might actually put just into a video. So I found an asset pack that I like called Fresh Scanned. I then pumped it through GPT and said put it into a room with these lights on, and it's generated me this, and this is the kind of graphics that I want to achieve with the nice reflections in the floor here. And then this is the result right now without any post-processing. I need to get my LUTs in the game. In fact, I might get the LUTs in now so I can play with that lighting. I'm not getting the reflections that I wanted. I don't think I'm getting the reflections. Let me set this back to 100%. Whoa. Whoa. Simulate. It's like, no, I'm not going to simulate. I'm going to crash. So this is what I got. The water is way darker than my reference image right now. And that might be to do with the ceiling, right? So what happens if we... Can I bring that ceiling down? Where's the gizmo? Fine, I'll do it like this. So if I bring that ceiling down, make it like really awkwardly low. The water's still black. So then I'm like, is that... Why is that? Why is it black? Maybe because there's no skylight in the scene? The skylight itself. Let's just stop it for now. Let's add a skylight with a scene, something. There we go. Right, cool. And then it just looks horrible at the edges. There is a value for like depth tested fade at the edge, which I think again you can play with here. And all that's doing is revealing what's underneath. That's not adding anything super cool to it. It does probably look cool around these poles there. But yeah, it's kind of lame, like weak source over here. I have other shaders that I could pull an outline from. With a switch node, something like replace GI in the global illumination, you input 1 on the emissive, and on the render pin you just put whatever you want, which tricks Lumen into seeing another version of the material. Maybe it's a plugin feature that I don't have enabled. Ray tracing? Okay, quality switch. What? That's cool. The ray tracing quality switch replacer thing did do something interesting there. Yeah, like this definitely did something, yeah. So I can turn the lights off and the room is still like hella lit. And so if I convert that to just there, we'll call it illumination. Illumination. So I can set that to 0. The room is now dark. I can set illumination to like 0.2. And it's like semi-light, but I can make my lights on my ceiling really bright if I want, but it's not hitting lumen as much, which is super cool actually, thank you, because that allows me to make lights if I want to have bloom on the light, but not make the scene overly bright, and vice versa. So like, if I just want the room to be lit, I can just light the room. That is super cool. So we can just have our lights, and now we're able to control the brightness of the scene, which is really neat. I'll have to implement some kind of shoreline at some point. But let's get the water. So it's this, translucent water and the planar reflection. Let's just put that in a folder of water. Grab both of these. Down, might be too much. Okay, right. How do I want to do this? I mean, I could just have it filling the entire corridor, like even to here, and then you, but this is kind of how I want it. Let's just make sure the boat's actually in the water. But yeah, like, it's getting there. I just need to import my... Oh yeah, shit. I got meetings. What time is it? Keep having to remind myself, hey man, don't forget your meats. Yeah, I got my meeting in like literally 5 minutes. So that was today's episode. I'm gonna get the rest done off stream. I'm gonna, or what am I gonna do? Probably gonna move these over here a bit, so that when you come into the room, you're like, wow, what's the point of this? And then I need to put some gold in the water and some fishing rods, and then this is the fishing for gold room. It's just an analogy, right, about office life. So these are the fishermen. These are the guys fishing for gold, and it looks pretty cool. Like, this is exactly what I wanted. I just wanted to import the assets that I needed, which is just this stuff. I need to also import the wood so that I can do the wood walk. So it's like as you walk across it, and then some creeks. There's a level of work that's going to go into making it sound right, basically. And then also, how do I get me? I mean, I guess I can walk over this and possibly over here, then over here, around and out. And then you can go into any of these. And it's actually really dark in here. I might need to add some lighting on the interior. But apparently, these materials or these statics are back facing, because that light did not work. So we'll figure that one out next time. Very cool. All right, I gotta go. Thanks everyone. Thanks Cludos for that tip on the lighting material. That was really cool. That's actually awesome. All right, cheat code. What we got? So if you check the lit lumen scene, you would see what it does. Cheat code, yeah. Post-process skylight leak. What's post-process skylight leak? Oh, is that like... Yeah, you'll have to come back and tell me what you mean by that, because I actually am going to be late for my meeting. See you soon. Thanks very much, everyone. Let's keep building a cool game.